Alright, welcome to our lesson today. We're going to do graphing linear equations. We've got a lot of examples today, so I'm going to go through these. If you need to pause at any time, make sure you pause and go back and watch again if you need to. Our learning target today is that students can find solutions of a linear equation, then graph those solutions. So we're going to be finding solutions of a linear equations and then graphing those solutions. And graphing for this in class just needs to be quick. Test and quiz and stuff, I'll provide graphs. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to the next slide. Example 1. Let's find our solutions. For our class, we'll be using a table to find our solutions. So this is going to be a table of solutions that we're going to be using. For our class, I want you to use 4 values for x when you're finding your solution. You have to use one negative number. You have to use 0. You have to use one positive number, so that's 3. And then the 4th number can be what you want. Most of you will choose another positive number because it's easier to work with. Okay, so in example A, we have y equals 2x. And I have started my table here of solutions. So I'm going to fill in some values for x. Now, I might give them to you on a test or quiz, but in reality, you get to choose what values you want for x. So I'm going to choose a negative number is negative 1. I'm going to do 0. I'm going to do 1. And just to be fun, I'm going to use 3. Okay? Now, if you look up here, those are my values for x. Now you'll see a blank here. There, I'm going to put my equation, y equals 2x. Then I'm going to have a column for my y, and then I have a column for my ordered pair, my x, y. So the x is going to be my independent variable there, so I'm deciding what that wants to be, and then I'm going to find my dependent variable. Based on my independent variable, based on my domain, what is my range, my y? Okay? So I'm just going to plug, this is substitution, I'm just going to plug the x value in for the x in my equation. So this first one I'm going to do 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1 is negative 2. So my ordered pair is made up of my x value, negative 1, and my y value, negative 2. So my ordered pair is negative 1, negative 2. So the middle section here helps me find my ordered pair. That is my solution. Okay, I'm going to find more. Now I try 0. 2 times 0 is 0. So that ordered pair is 0, 0. Now I plug in 1. 2 times 1 is 2. That gives me an ordered pair of 1, 2. And I did 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So that gives me an ordered pair of 3, 6. So these, right here, this last column, those are my solutions. Okay? And that's my answer. That's all I have to do for finding solutions is to do that, and my table has my solutions in them. Okay? If I do the same thing for my next one, I'm going to pick values. So now you'll notice in my equation here, I have a negative, or I have a 1/2. So if I know anything about halves, if I have to divide a number in half, and I want to work with whole numbers, what I like to try to do, I want to use even numbers, because a half of an even number is still a whole number. So I'm going to choose negative 2, 0, 2, and 4 as my numbers. Now I'm going to put my equation here, y equals 1/2 x plus 1, and now I can substitute it in. So I can do 1/2 times negative 2 plus 1. You can do all the math. That's 0. Negative 1, half of negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So my ordered pair is negative 2, 0. Now I plug in 0. 1/2 times 0 plus 1. 0 plus 1 is 1, so that's 0, 1. 1/2 times 2 is 1, plus 1 is 2, so I get 2, 2. And then I do 1/2 times 4, which is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I get 4, 3. And there are my solutions, and there are my ordered pairs. And that's how you find the solutions. Okay? If you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to my next slide. Okay. In example 2, we're going to graph the linear equations. So first, you make a table of solutions, like we did in example 1. And then you're going to graph the ordered pairs. Now, if you look at my equations here, they're the same equations as before. I did that to save time. I'll do that on some assignments too. So let me just rewrite the solutions that I have from my tables of solutions. We had negative 1, negative 2. You should already have these written down, so you don't need to recopy them, because they should be on your paper already. Those are what we had for my first one. So now I'm just going to graph them. So all you have to do is quickly make your XY axis. This is a quick way of graphing, just a rough graph. And then you're going to plot the points. So I have to go out to positive 6. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just going to do 6 marks in each direction so that I have some kind of baseline to use. Okay? Now I'm just going to graph them. -1, -2. 1 to the left, 2 down. 0, 0. 1, 2. 3, 6. Now, one thing that we should notice about your line is in this case we are going to draw a line to connect them. They should all be in a straight line. That's what a linear line means. Linear means straight. So if they are in a straight line, then you probably did it correctly. If you end up with a point, let's say you end up with a point over here, then you probably know that's wrong and you should go back and check your work. So the nice thing about graphing is it helps you check. Also, we like to use 4 points because that helps verify that our answers are correct. Okay, and that's all you have to do for graphing. So the hard part of graphing is actually the table of solutions. That's more work than the actual graph. Okay, let's do example B here. So my ordered pair that I came up with, my solutions were right here, were these. So let's graph them. I only need to go with 4, so I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 in each direction. Okay, you can always do more than you need. You can never do less. But you can just look to see, what you have in your numbers and work accordingly. And each dot doesn't always have to be worth 1 or each tick mark. You can make them worth 2, 3, 4, 5 if you need to, if your numbers are larger. Okay, so I'm going to graph these. So I get -2, 0. So that's going to go right here. Then I'm going to get 0, 1. And I get 2, 2. And I'm going to get 4, 3. And there it is. Make sure that they're in a straight line. So just hand draw your straight line. And there is my graph, and it's in a straight line. And so I'm good. And it's a rough draft, guys, so you have to remember that you're just roughly putting these in. When you get an actual graph paper, they should be exactly perfect. Okay? And that's how you graph a linear equation. And if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to my next example. All right, in example 3, graphing horizontal and vertical lines. Now we have a situation where we have horizontal and vertical lines because I only have one variable. Okay, there's only the y in A, and I only have the x in B. So that's how you know that it's going to be either a horizontal or a vertical line, because there's only one variable. So the one variable is not controlling the other variable. Okay, in example A, we have y equals 3, which means my x is not controlling my y. My y is 3. It doesn't matter what my x is. My y always equals 3 in these examples. So what I'm going to do in my graph is I'm going to go up to 3 on the y-axis, and I just make this is going to be a horizontal line. So when y equals something, it's a horizontal line. Y equals a number. Okay, it doesn't matter. If x is 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, y is still 3. It says y is equal to 3. So I put a point. It would all be on that horizontal line. Okay, 2, 3, 3, 3. It doesn't matter. Y always equals 3, so that makes a horizontal line. If it's x equals something, that's going to be a vertical line, because x is not impacting the y. X is always -2, and it doesn't matter what the y is. So I'm going to go to -2 on my x-axis, which would be right here, and then I'm going to make a vertical line. Again, if x is -2, y can be 1, y can be 5. It doesn't matter, but that's going to give me a vertical line. So you have to look. If there's only one variable in your problem, it's either going to be a horizontal or vertical line. Y equals something's horizontal, x equals something will be vertical. Okay. If you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to my next example. All right, our last example, write equations in function form. Well, function form is the form that I was kind of giving you in the other ones, where it was y equals and then the rest of your problem. So what we want to do in function form is we want to figure out what y equals. We're basically solving multi-step equations and solving to figure out what y equals. So what I'm going to do with this is first get rid of the x part of my equation. So I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to put 1x here so I remember what I'm doing here. So I'm going to subtract 1x from both. That's going to leave me with 2y on this side equals -1x plus 6. I'm going to put the x in front of my constant. Remember, the 6 is called a constant. I'm going to put my x in front of that because that's going to fit our forms as we move forward. So that's a good habit to get into. And the second thing I'm going to do is divide by 2 to both sides. When I divide by 2 to both sides, it means I have to divide every term by 2. So I divide each term by 2. Okay, you can't just do one of these by 2, and then on the right side you have to divide them both by 2. That's going to get rid of those. That's going to be y equals. This is going to turn into -1/2 x plus 6 divided by 2 is 3. And that's how you end up with a fraction in your function form. Okay, in example B, I'm going to get rid of my x part first. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. That's going to leave me with this is still over here. So I have -3y and then equals -2x plus 3. Then I'm going to divide both sides by -3, which means I divide each term by -3. Those cross off, so it's going to be y equals a negative divided by negative is a positive, so that gives me 2/3 x. And then you got 3 divided by -3 is going to be -1. So that's 2/3 x minus 1. Okay, if you write this would also be acceptable. That's okay if you use a plus -1 is fine also. Okay, and that's how you do those. If you need to go back and rewatch anything, go ahead. Otherwise, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.